No Duck Zone podcast. We live from Cops and Kids down here celebrating Jimmy O Day, and I'm standing here with.
Alexander Babenko, Cops and Kids.
All right, what's going on, brother? How's everything, man?
Everything's perfect right now. Just came back from a tournament, got that under my belt, my third one, and right now we just got a bunch of good sparring in. Obviously, want to watch the fights today. Today's People better be at 2, so I'm excited for that. But I'm glad that I got my sparring in. Everybody else is working in there as well. A lot of people. It's nice.
Yeah, you know what? This one right here for me is special because this is the first time I'm actually doing this with you, and I've been wanting to do this with you for a while. And I was like, you know what? Before I do it, I gotta talk to him. I never had really a conversation. We see each other at shows and we speak, but I'm a big fan because I've actually seen you. So I'm like, you know, one day I gotta get this kid. So let's talk about why we're here today, man. Jimmy O Day, man. Were you here the first time he did it?
Yeah, so I was here last year when it happened, and it was a very great event. A lot of people came in, different gyms. It was good work.
Yeah, I didn't get to speak because I think it was so much more people last year. It's kind of quiet today, but it's still early.
Still a lot of people, though.
It's still a lot of people.
Everybody's getting work.
But we had no room like last year. There was no room to move around.
For sure.
It was a lot going on. Yeah. So let's take it back for a second because being that I never really got to have a conversation with you, and I'm sure the people are gonna want to know. How did you get into boxing? Did you find boxing or did boxing find you?
I think it's a mix of both, actually. It's an interesting story. It's a little cliche now, but I did fight a lot in school growing up, and it was to the point where like I would come in to the principal's office and we'd be like friends because she'd be like, "Oh yeah, what happened this time? Like who was it?" So I think at that point it was like I kind of had to do something else because really, I mean, that was never going to work out if you're fighting every day. So I got into a gym. My father didn't want me to go, but when he was away, I told my mom and she was like, "Yeah, sure, we could go." And from there on, I've just been in there. And I'm not talented. I just work hard, and I think that that's the number one reason why I'm here. So.
When was the first time you fell in love with boxing?
I think literally the first day I came in because I knew that what I wanted to do, and I knew that when it comes down to like school and everything, it's great, but it's not something that I want to do for myself. I want to work for myself, and this is something that I envision for me going forward. So once I go pro and have all that, I'm going to set up businesses, and I think from the first day that I walked in the gym, I knew that this is where I'd be.
Wow, that's interesting for you to say all that. A lot of people walk in and they have to figure it out what it is that they want to do. Like, let me see, because it might look easy, and then I actually get in here with guys that might have been boxing 5-10 years, and you know their experience, and you know one hit can make you change your mind, and you go, you know what? Let me go play baseball, or let me go play basketball. Something that's not gonna. All right. So when did you know the first time that you told yourself, this is actually something that I actually want to do, that I'm good at it, I can see myself doing this?
Yeah. So I think from my first amateur fight is where I really found out that this is something that's going to be a career for me. Because I think before then I had team sports like. Soccer, hockey, basketball. I did play basketball for a little while. I realized that boxing was something that I could do because a lot of people say this, but it's true. When it comes down to those team sports, it's a whole team with you. And really, if you lose, you could have an amazing performance, but if your team kind of sucks, it's down to them. And if you win, the spotlight could be off you, which I don't know how I feel about that. Whereas in boxing, you lose, it's on you, but if you win, it's definitely on you. So, for sure.
Do you remember your first fight?
Yes. So my first fight, I was 10, and it was at the beginning of lockdown. And actually, I was 11. It was at the beginning of lockdown, and I fought a kid who was 14. And I dropped him, and I won a unanimous decision. Yeah.
Wow. Going into that fight, you were young, so even when you're grown, you're going to have butterflies because everybody's watching you. It's kind of different from sparring. It's like I got my friends, I got family. What was you feeling like? Did you have any butterflies? Were you nervous? Were you concerned?
Well, I think I think that my coaches did an amazing job back then because I was in when I had my first fight, I was still in Canada, and
Oh wow.
the my coaches were buttering me up like, oh yeah, you're gonna stop this kid, and I think I was very confident, but I always had the adrenaline, which is why I think in the moment you kind of forget everything as soon as the bell rings and you just run at him trying to stop him, and yeah, I think that's really what happened.
Yeah, the morning of it, you woke up. You probably don't remember. I always
Yes.
like to ask people this
Yeah.
because sometimes you don't know what people mental is at,
Mhm.
even when they're at a young age like that.
Yeah.
When you got up that morning, where you knew it's fight day, were you excited? Were you happy? You couldn't wait to get to the gym?
I think it was a mix of everything because I woke up that day and I felt like I was a pro. I felt like I was fighting for a world title. And my coach picked me up and we went to where the fights were, and I was ready. I think I was excited. Obviously, you're a little nervous because it is your first fight,
Yeah.
but I think aside from the obvious, I mean, my parents were watching as well, but
Yeah.
I think I was good. Yeah.
Now, usually when it comes to the sport of boxing, it's not so much of the mother. It's a few mothers that you see that will encourage their kids
Right.
to get into boxing because it's violent. Usually, it's the father that's like, "You're going to learn how to fight." How did your mom take it when you first got into boxing? Was it her? Did she? Was it your father that agreed with it, or was it your mother? Was it both that agreed for you to do
so
it?
I think I think it actually kind of switched. My mom started off like supporting it, and she still obviously does.
Yeah.
But now she's more nervous than ever because she actually understands it.
Yeah.
And whereas my father at the start he didn't like it, um, but then he realized that I was good, and he was like, okay. And he started taking me to tournaments. He's always with me at all my fights.
Yeah.
Someone that I could hug before the fight, after the fight, and he always helped me out with everything.
Yeah.
And, yeah, but at the start it was definitely my mom, and then now my mom watches from the sideline. She's nervous, but she definitely wants me to win, and my father's there with me.
Yeah, because it's hard to watch your baby, being punched in the face. See,
Right.
there's nothing wrong with you watching him punch
Yes,
somebody.
yes.
And you're cheering on, and then as soon as he get hit, you're like, "Oh my God, my baby's bleeding. Is he okay?"
Yeah.
And you now probably at your age, you're probably like, "Mom, relax.
Yeah.
It's all right. It's part of a sport."
Mm.
And I think having family, it's no way you can continue to go on doing it without having that support.
Right.
That support is a must. So let's get back to what you said when we first started. You just came back from
A national tournament.
national tournament. Let's get into that.
So yeah, of course. So I have a Canadian citizenship.
Yeah.
I lived in Canada for a good chunk of my life before moving to the U.S. And I still fight for. I'm actually on the national team now because I won nationals last March. That was my first ever nationals that I won, and then I went again. This was the first nationals of the year. I fought three great opponents. One of them was on the youth national team, and I beat all of them unanimous decision 5-0. And yeah, I mean, I think realistically, this is just the start. And I mean, I'm getting my rankings up. A lot of people know me now in Canada. I walk around, people that I don't even know say, "Oh yeah, how you doing?" And it's definitely a great feeling. So.
What was that transaction like coming from Canada to here and coming at a young age?
Right.
Because coming from Canada, of course, coming to New York City is two different places.
Two different worlds.
Two different worlds, because there's a lot of things you're gonna see in Canada that you're gonna be like, okay,
Yeah,
that's
but
practically
in
normal.
New York, it's
But then
different.
you come here, you're like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
what have I got into? So, what was the transaction like, and how long did it take you to adjust being in the city?
Yeah. So where I used to live in Vancouver, it's a very mountainous area. It's a lot of nature, mountains, wildlife. And when I moved from there to here, it's like the complete opposite. It's just city blocks. You got all these housing apartments.
Yeah.
So many people, completely different culture. It definitely took me a little while to adjust, but I think within a year and a half, I think I adjusted. I mean, this is great for boxing. Like
Yeah.
Brooklyn, New York,
Yeah.
New York in general, it's the mecca of boxing. So biggest fights happen here and the best coaches. So I'm happy.
How did you get introduced to Cops and Kids?
So this is actually a funny story, and Sosa brings it up all the time. But Before I came to New York, I watched the documentary on B Hop, on Chris Colbert,
Yeah.
and all them guys on Netflix. And I kind of knew of the gym from even from Canada. And when we found out we're moving here, I was like, it's kind of like already set, like I guess kind of choice. So
Yeah.
when I came here, Sosa saw me sparring. He's like, "Oh, this white boy's pretty good. He's got a little bit of rhythm." So yeah, I guess from there it kind of went off.
Um, what was the vibes like? Do you remember the first day you walked into Cops and Kids?
Yeah.
And what was it like? Because there's a difference from you hearing stories, right?
Right.
And then you're actually walking into a gym that's not your ordinary gym. A lot of champions,
Yeah.
a lot of important people come out of this gym. So do you remember the first day coming in?
I definitely remember the first day. It was in the summer, and Pat Russo actually he greeted me and my father,
Yeah.
and it was a sparring day. I believe it was a Tuesday, and I came in and everybody was sparring, and he introduced me to a lot of people. And then I went to go unpack my stuff, and I saw that Nikita Bobby was sparring.
Yes.
And he was in between rounds, and I think I talked a little bit of trash to him, and he kind of looked on, and he was like, "Okay." But like even on Thursday, I sparred him, so I think it really shows that the networking can really play a part.
Yeah.
And the first day, I really was introduced to everybody. I think it was great.
How is it to have both sides of the world? You have your Canada people and you have your New York
Right.
fan base. What is that like to have love from both sides?
I think this is a great question. Most of my childhood friends are obviously Canadian,
Yeah.
but all like the whole boxing family that I have now is like I wouldn't trade it for anything. Like everybody here is like so close, and I really like everybody, and I think the two worlds like they mesh really well together. Because on one side, obviously, I grew up with those people, and I still talk to them when I go over there, and everybody obviously knows me. But here, I train with these guys, everything. I think it's a perfect balance.
It's perfect. So let's get back into the nationals.
Yes.
Wasn't your first time competing?
No,
Out there?
so the first time I went was fall of 2023, and that was a national qualifier. Um, and then that was unfortunately I got a silver medal that time 2 years
Yeah.
ago. The first time that I went,
Uh huh.
and then since then I've gone 12-0 in Canada.
12-0?
Yeah, since then. So
Oh man, you're dangerous.
Yeah, I had to shut him up real quick. So that's.
I
Kind
mean,
of
12-0. That's not nothing light. That's
Yeah.
something very serious,
I've
man.
dominated both the divisions I've been in since then. So right now I'm a welterweight. I'm probably gonna move up to 154 soon because I
Woo.
keep growing. But yeah.
Yeah, you know what? Because I remember the first time seeing you,
Yeah.
and I remember telling I forgot what coach it was, and I said, man, what's up with this kid, man? I said, is he fighting? Somebody's like, yeah, he fights. You need to see him. You never saw him before? I was like, nah, I never saw him.
Yeah.
And I forgot where we was when I finally did see you fight.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, yeah,
Oh,
he's
yeah,
something.
now-
I said, oh, he's something
Yeah.
different. And I kept seeing it, and I became a fan. And that's why every time I saw you, I said, I got to speak to him, man.
Yeah.
And then I noticed, but every time I saw you, it seemed like you kept getting an inch taller. And I'm like, okay, maybe I'm seeing things.
Right.
But I realized, okay, he's growing. You know, he's young. But yeah, 54 is, oh, man, that's going to be that's going to be something major,
Yeah.
man. So you're not as far as the ringmasters, it's not your time yet, or are we getting close to that time?
No, I'm far away from.
Far
that.
away from
I
that.
have,
See, you said,
I have one guy in there, and I don't even know if I'm fighting because I might be away for that.
okay.
But it's literally only the finals. It's going to be in April, like mid-April. And if I do fight him, it's great. If I don't, oh well. I'll fight him anyway in the Metros or in the summer tournament.
Since you've been in the boxing,
Yes.
can you explain how much it has changed your life and some of the places you have got to go, the people you have got to meet that you never thought that you would ever meet and go to?
So, I mean, first of all, I think it's to do with New York because when I moved here, I've never been to a boxing event, never been to any of those, and I think the first event I went to is Tio and Cambosis, which was crazy. I saw Tio get dropped,
That
and
was
everybody
crazy.
started jumping up and
Yeah,
screaming.
that was crazy.
Since then, I've been to Tank's fight against Rolly, Wilder. I've seen
Yeah.
Loma. Keyshawn just now fought. It was a crazy fight, great card. Abdullah Mason, all them guys, like
Yeah.
really talented people.
Yeah.
Um, and people like I've met everybody. I think Danny Jacobs.
Yeah.
I sparred Richardson Hitchens,
Yeah.
Nikita Bobby, Rashad Monty. Um, uh, really, Richardson Hitchens. He inspires me a lot because I think our styles are very alike. And when I sparred him, he told me I had great distance, a great jab. Um, and I think it's really just the process of me getting better and me getting more and more like him.
Yeah.
With a bunch of things mixed in from Sosa's game as well, which is to work well on the inside and to do all that. So I've definitely met a lot of people. Sergey Derevyanchenko, everybody. It's crazy.
There's a what are some of the things you have learned from the different people you have just named, the coaches, the fighters? What are some of the things you have learned for all of them since you've been here?
Well, first of all, I think the number one lesson is loyalty, because a lot of people talk about the boxing lessons, what they learned in terms of don't step in with your jab too far or this and that, and a lot of them have taught me a lot of boxing. But what I think the number one thing was life in general, loyalty, hard work, dedication. I think the number one reason a lot of people don't make it is because they're not all the way in. You can't have one foot in and one foot out. You have to be all the way in. So that's something that I like to take into my game. And yeah, that's definitely something that I take into myself.
Were there any times where, for whatever reason, you ever had got discouraged and felt like, or ever questioned
Yes.
yourself? Because things happen.
course.
Sometimes boxing it's not just
Exactly.
mental. It could take control of your mental, and sometimes you'll find yourself asking for whatever reason. Do I still want to do this?
Right.
Have you had any moments that you felt that way, or have you ever talked to any fighters that might have came to you and felt like that, and you encouraged them, or they encouraged you to hang in there?
Yeah. Well, I think uh, well, at least for me, I've obviously everybody has setbacks. I think it's the way that you really take control of them and don't let them dictate what you are. You have to dictate how you handle them. And I have had them, but every single time I have a very great team around me. I have Sosa, the whole Sosa crew with me, Sergi, um, all of my coaches, my father, obviously, and I've always found a way to overcome that. Um, One of my friends passed away from suicide not too long ago.
Yes, I know. Rest in
Um,
peace, Mo. Yeah.
Rest in peace, Mo. R.I.P.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's one of the things that weighs heavy on me because I think that we need to have a brotherhood where everybody can talk about what they're feeling and what struggles they're going through because I think that could have been prevented.
you know, when that happened, what you weighed heavy on me, and I never had a conversation with him, but it didn't matter. Boxing's a brotherhood.
Yes.
Rather if you're in the media, you're a referee, you're a judge, you're behind the camera like I am. How much did it make you look at life different when that happened with him? Because we were all there that day, seeing him for the last time, and it for me, it definitely made me look at things different, as I always do. But for you, what was your mindset? Seeing your friend there like
Um,
that.
it started off with a missing persons report that week,
Yeah,
and we all didn't know what to expect, but that was the last thing that everybody was expecting.
yeah,
And it definitely weighed heavy. I can't say that it was easy to kind of go through it. I mean, this tournament that I just came from, I dedicated it to him, and I think that this is just a wake up call for everybody to think that really you are not alone, and there are obviously people that you can talk to. Um,
yeah,
and really, it's never the answer. It's a permanent solution to a temporary problem.
yeah.
And yeah, I think that's definitely it.
I think what in dealing with you guys,
Yeah.
not just dealing with boxing, but dealing with you guys, I don't think y'all know how much you guys keep me going,
Yes.
and that's the reason why I still do what I do. That's why I have personal relationships where it's not just boxing. I call a lot of fighters just to check up on them. It's not always about boxing. Sometimes you just have to ask somebody
Yeah.
how you feel today, because sometimes you don't feel like you. Sometimes you're not gonna feel like coming to the gym. You're not gonna feel like going to school. You're not gonna feel like talking to anybody, and it's just this dark cloud over your head where it's just nobody knows
Right.
what's going on. That's why it is important for us to keep the brotherhood, and even if you're just checking in with somebody for a couple of minutes,
Yeah.
just to see, hey man, I'm just checking up on you. You good? Okay. Hey, I'll see you when I see you, and that's very important. So I want to know how many times or how many more fights are you planning on having this year? How active do you want to be this year?
I've definitely been active last year, so I'm definitely not slowing down this year. I think I'm gonna hit 50 fights before the end of the year.
Ooh, woo,
Yeah.
Jesus,
So we're looking at probably closer to 20 this year. I think I'm at 37 right now.
wow.
Yeah, so 13 more, which I think we'll get this year.
Yeah.
We'll be at 50. And then before I go pro, I think we're gonna have 100 plus, which is
Man, I'm hoping so. When you're fighting in the Hulu Theater at the Guard, man,
Yeah.
that would be, or the Barclays Center, or wherever because there's so many venues in New York City.
I
Like,
want the Barclays Center most of all.
you want the Barclays Center?
Yes, I want the
I could see it now that you probably would have half of that building filled, because now you not only have your New York family, you have Canada.
Yes.
So it just would be crazy.
Yeah.
It would be so crazy. I can't even sit down there. I'll have to do media. I have to be in the dressing room with you because it'll be. I mean,
For
but
sure.
yeah, but we're hoping that happens, man. We're just gonna keep on. So, when's your next fight? When can we expect to see you again?
So my next fight is unfortunately nationals again in Canada,
Okay.
and I'm gonna get that one done, and I'm gonna clean out the division again. And then after that, the next fight in New York is gonna be, as I said, hopefully April 12th. And if not, there's gonna be a club show around that time, probably April, May. But yeah, we're staying active. We're getting all the fights in. That's what we do.
All right, man. I ain't gonna hold you too long. Just for the fans that's out there listening, let them know where they can find you.
On Instagram, I'm at Alexander Babenko. No E between the D and the R. And yeah, that's pretty much the only place I am.
All right, there you, champ.
Appreciate
All right, I'm gonna catch y'all later. Y'all know what it is. It's the No Doug Zone podcast. Let's go.